Good. Okay. To set it up, we can directly start from the documentation. I just go here with Apple, iOS, but even if you're React Native developer or Kotlin loving developer, we use Swift here, not Objective-C, so the code is very similar and the whole concept is pretty similar. It should be almost the same on every platform, so just stay along and that you should still get the idea. What I need to do here is, of course, first, I should make sure that Sentry is set up how it's usually set up, but I guess most of you folks already know that. That's why we directly jump to performance monitoring. I just click here on setup, and here it explains a bit what performance monitoring is. And all I need to do basically is just configure a sample rate, the traced sample rate. That specifies the percentage of transactions that the SDK sends to Sentry. It's a number between 0 and 1. And if I use 1, this means all transactions will be sent to Sentry, which is very useful for debugging in development. But if you put that value into production, it might be that you really soon run out of quota. And it also means, it also is not really necessary maybe that you get all transactions. So it really depends on a use case, how many customers you have. You should really maybe lower that value down to, I don't know, 20%, maybe just 1%, 5%. But yeah, that's really hard to say as a general rule what you should use. So let's go back to our sample app. I just have here in my app delegate, I just throw on here the sample rate, set it to 100%, and we would already be good to go to send some transactions. But first, I want to start with showing you how you can manually create a transaction, because previously I was talking about traces, transactions, and spans, and I just want to show you how you can do it manually to better understand the concept. Here we have our iOS Swift test app for our SDK. It's very, very beautiful. Maybe we're even going to submit it to the App Store, and hopefully we're going to win a design award. Now, of course, I'm just joking. It's just a very simple application that doesn't do much. And I just want that when I click on capture transaction, I capture my transaction, which is not there yet. Here I have something that gets messages and renders messages. In real, it doesn't really render messages. Actually, if I would go down to the implementation, there's just a bunch of delays in there to just emulate something. But let's just create a transaction. How I do this is I just do Sentry SDK, start transaction. I have to give it a name, load messages. The name is important because that's how you find it in the performance overview page. And I'm going to show that to you later. I also have to give it operation. I will also show that to you later, what the difference between name and operation is. Let's just call it UI load. Most important is that I finish my transaction, because if I don't finish my transaction, the SDK doesn't know when to send it, and it won't be sent. And I also want to have now two different spans, measuring the time of getting the messages and also measuring the time of sending the message, rendering the messages. So let's just call this get message span, get. And if you remember from before, I said that every transaction can have multiple spans. And how I do it is just I create a child of that. So that is now a child of my transaction. Get message span, I just call this db.load. So this would be how you could, for example, now measure your database queries manually, of course. In the future, we hope that we provide support for many, many database libraries that you don't have to do that manually. And in here in the callback, I, of course, need to finish that. And now I want to say transaction start child for the rendering. I just call this UI render. Render span. And I also need to finish that. Or beautiful. And if I just hit play here, so let's compile this. Usually it's faster. Okay, now here we go. And I will just capture transaction. Here it is. Okay, I see in the log that something happened. And I now can go over to my performance overview page. And this is where I see all my transactions. Here I can change the environment. That's pretty similar to what you use to issues. Here down here, I see all those transactions. And this is here where the name is important. This is load messages. So when I click on this, I see all the transactions with the name load messages. Here I get a nice duration breakdown of what the duration of my transactions is. Here I don't have really enough data, but if you use it in production, it would look something like this, where you even see the different percentiles of where the range of the duration of your transactions is. It's pretty cool. You can also change it to different things and get different views on it. And down here, I see the individual transactions. And here I can filter, meaning, okay, now it shows me the slow transactions, because normally that would be the transactions I want to investigate. But I just want to have recent transactions here. So it's sorted by the incoming transactions. And here I see, okay, this transaction is just from a few minutes ago. This is the detailed view of a transaction. Here I actually see this is the transaction with the operation ends up here. The name ends up here. And here I have the two spans as children that I just created manually with DB load and UI render. And I didn't give them a description. So it's just the span ID. The cool thing is with the operations is you kind of should treat them like tags or something, because in the view here, if you have plenty of spans, you can filter by them. And there are also some metrics and statistics that we provide that are based on those operations. On the transaction here as well, we see tags as you're used to in events. We even have breadcrumbs and all the other device contexts that we have on our events as well. Okay, that was how we manually create a transaction. But of course, doing that for everything kind of is not what we want you to do.